All right, so we are going to go ahead and get right into tea time, which means we're going to get all up in Kayla's business. No.
All up in there.
Let's go. Yeah.
She like, I'm ready.
She like, you know what? Look, I just took a little bit of wine. Let's just do the daggone thing.
Let's do it.
No, but let's start just real general. Can you give us some stats? Like, how old are you? What do you do? And then give us a little bit of background about Full Circle Television.
Okay, so I am Kayla Lewis Allen. I am 31 years old from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am the producer and co-founder of Full Circle Television. A little bit of background about it. Didn't plan on having a network, really just planned on doing this show to talk about like the ups and downs of relationships, because I was in the process of getting married. And during that time, I was like doing some soul searching, having to find myself. So with that, I was like, it would be good if these same questions that I was asking myself in the middle of the night, other folks were to answer them, and we can get those like on video so that we can put it out to the world so that everyone knows like, hey, you're not the only couple dealing with this, or you're not the only individual that's dealing with this. So we can start that healing there. So that's a bit of how we got started in the background of Full Circle Television.
Awesome. And that's really dope. So you say you're from Milwaukee. What high school did you go to?
Riverside University High School. Of going on up in here.
Blasphemy.
Going on up in here. I don't like that.
No, I'm joking.
Hilarious.
I'm joking. Riverside is an excellent school.
It is, absolutely. So, and no rivalry here. I went to Milwaukee High School of Arts, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. I auditioned for arts. I got in, but I didn't get the spot that I wanted, so I didn't go.
You ain't wrong. So, don't be putting me anywhere. I love that. I love it. But no, that's what's up. And I love the background of why you started Full Circle Television, because at the time you were preparing to get married to your husband. And that is a vital question. And the Relationship Goals series reminds me so much of Black Love. So when you all were creating this, like, your idea was like, we should record these conversations that, we want people to know about, our own relationship, and we're soul searching for us, but we want other people to share their experiences. But what gave you all the idea to have it like so intimate, like on the couch, and like, I just love the vibe and the look of it.
So a lot of that did come from Black Love. So at first, I wanted it to be in a studio, but I'm like, okay, we're talking about relationships and very intimate relationships between husband and wives. And like, while a studio would be gorgeous, to have it at, like, let's do it with a homey feel. So we rented out an Airbnb right downtown Milwaukee and just brought all of our guests in. We had a chef come in and cook. We had drinks available. Like, I wanted people to feel comfortable while they were filming. So it was a really, really good time. But a lot of that, like, at home feeling came from watching Black Love.
Awesome. That's what's up. And with the Relationship Goals series, did it first start with like couples and then it branched out to friends and parents? Because I see that there are the 3 levels, which a lot of people don't talk about. You read books like Mike Todd's book Relationship Goals, or you watch Black Love and things like that, and it is always like couples, like relationships, but we don't really dig deep into those friendship relationships or those parental relationships and things like that. So what made you all want to dig deep into those relationships as well?
Funny, because it's kind of like the same thing that happened when I was in the process of getting married, just like trying to find myself before getting married. But then I went through the whole preparing for my wedding process and lost a bunch of friends. So during that, I was like, okay, now it's time to talk about friends, because I can't be the only one going through this. So that's how the friend portion came along. And then parents, I feel like every relationship, the relationship that you have with your parents especially feeds into how you are going to be, in your romantic relationships. Like, one of the questions that we asked our guests was like, how did you see love shown in your household growing up? And they would say like, my parents really didn't kiss each other. They didn't go on dates. They were just working to take care of us. And then, like, that shows you like, hey, maybe I just want to be a hustler, or maybe I want the exact opposite. Maybe I want to come home and cuddle with my husband, cuddle with my wife, and things like that. So I was like, okay, it's time for us to talk to these adult children and their parents.
I love that. That is super good. I would definitely love to see that with like a millennial parent and then their kid. Like we don't hear a lot from like children, like kids now. Like what do you experience from your parents and what have they taught you and what things do you wish, you know, that your parents would do with you and things like that. That would be so cute. She's like, I will write this down. Listen,
that's gonna
listen. Definitely find me and my son because I would love to hear his perspective. I don't think I've ever asked him that. Like, so what do you want, you know, from your mom and dad? He's going to be 13 in December.
Okay, I think that 13 to 15 would be like that perfect age.
Yeah. Yes.
Conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because by then they're a little bit more aware and they've been to other people's homes and they've seen different things on TV. So you're not the only baseline.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem when you're a child is that whatever the baseline is, you accept as the norm.
Mm-hmm.
It is that voice too, because a lot of times, you know, everybody raise their children differently, but a lot of times children feel like they don't have a voice. So if other kids like 13 to 15 years old watch the show and like, well, you know, John was able to go on there with his mom and tell her how he really feels. So I should be able to do that same thing. Like I should be able to like open these conversations with my mom. So that'd be cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. So
y'all gonna get a credit.
Hey, we'll take that. Listen, we will take that. Listen, and I would apply to be on the couch with my boy. Like, come on, let's go talk this out. So yes, I love that. All right. And then you say you co-founded this with your husband now. Yeah. Are either one of you like, is your background in media?
Not at all. Literally, wow. We got a computer. So what did we get first? We got a camera first because we were doing a vlog series on documenting our road to marriage. So our engagement, we documented that all the way to like looking for our venue, our bridal shower, his bachelor party. Like we documented the series on YouTube. So we had a camera for that. And I had a little like a MacBook Air or something like that. So we went to go get a new computer because didn't have enough space. So we got a new computer, and then we randomly just started to like make this series. Like we did not buy the equipment to make this series. Like we were supposed to be doing family vlogs with our equipment that we bought.
Turned into a whole network.
Listen. Like what?
He do it. Listen.
So then what is your background and what's your husband's background?
Yeah, so my husband, he is in the gas field out here in Madison. And then I was with a nonprofit agency out here, Sankofa Behavioral and Community Health, where we were helping mentally ill homeless folks that were battling like mental illnesses and trying to get them into homes.
Wow. Okay. No, that's pretty awesome. So then what do you feel like your purpose is?
I have like searched for that forever, and when it comes down to everything that I have ever done, it is really connecting with people. Yeah. Like, so for me, like all the jobs that I've had, especially this last job working with the mentally ill homeless folks, like really connecting with people, getting people to open up to me. I always tell the story, but I met this guy, like a war vet, older Black man, and he did not want to talk to me. I guess I looked like this preppy girl that couldn't understand his problems or anything like that. So he like kept like shooing me away. And then I just asked him his name, and he told me his name was Floyd. And I was like, oh, like, you know, like Floyd Mayweather, like whatever. Like I cracked a joke with him. And then from there, he wanted to talk to me every single day. So really getting people to like break those barriers and really open up and have those conversations. I think that's my purpose. And when people feel like, oh, I'm not alone, or she can relate to me, then they are more willing to, you know, start their healing process and start talking and having those conversations.
Mm-hmm. So is there something that you felt like you needed to be healed from?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's a lot of what I was doing, like in the middle of the night before we even started relationship goals, like having therapy sessions with myself, because when I got engaged, I was nervous. Most girls are like geek, like, oh, let's start planning our wedding. And I'm like, damn, am I ready to be somebody's wife? Like, I never wanted to be anybody's wife because of the wives that I saw in my life growing up. They were unhappy. They were like second-class citizens in their own home. Like they were the cooker, they were the cleaner. They had to like shut their mouths and things like that. Like they did not have the same like power as the man in a relationship, and I never wanted that. So for me to become a wife, I had to do some healing and be like, why do I feel this way? Like, why do I view relationships this way? That like there has to be some good relationships out there, because you ain't the only one that's about to be married, you know what I mean? So I really need to do some soul searching and healing during that point, and just looking at my life in each individual relationship. So my relationship with my husband, my relationships with my parents, and then my relationships with my friends.
Mm. That's good. Yeah. And I think that is important, because getting married, of course, I'm not married, but it's such a huge like step in your life, because now you have to share this life. You have now a life partner, and we have to share this life together and make it work. So doing that self-healing work is so important. We talk about that a lot on our show, like doing the work for yourself before you jump into these big life-changing events.
Right.
You have to do the work, because what you don't work on is going to show up, and then you're gonna be like, I thought, I was over that, or I thought, I could just bypass this. But no, like you really have to do that healing work. So I think that's great that through this healing work, you produce something that's helping other people, and having them to start the conversation, which you just said you think it's not even you think, but that's what your purpose is, getting people to have these deep, honest, open conversations. I love that. That's what's up.
Which is what we're big fans of.
Big
right?
fan. Yes, I love that. So thinking about the show relationship goals, so far, what's probably your favorite episode?
My favorite episode, and I posted a clip from it today, is the parent episode with Rachel and her mom. And while that was my favorite, is because they had an aha moment right in the middle of the show. You could tell they had never had this conversation before that needed to be had, and they had it right on the show. And you could tell like her mom thought that she was going to be defensive, like she was going to. So the conversation was around her father had passed, her and her mother and her family were all living under one roof. She was ready for her mom to go, but it was hard for her mom to part ways because that had been her house for so many years. And she just said, like, I wasn't being sensitive with my mom, where my mom was like making sure that I was good during my dad's passing. I wasn't making sure that she was good. And you could tell that her mom was like, dang, she noticed this, and she appreciated it. So that was like one of my favorite moments on the show.
Yeah. What was one of the most difficult conversations?
Let me see. It really wasn't. Let me see. Because I feel like when we are in the like middle of production, I give so much of myself. Like if there's a question and they really can't find an answer to it, like I give them an example of something, and now like they feel comfortable again to share what they have going on. So it really wasn't anything difficult. I guess the most difficult part of it is like getting people to buy in to sit on the couch, because I had people say things like, I ain't trying to be on Love and Hip Hop, or like I don't know what this is. I don't want to be too invasive, or me and my person aren't in a good place right now to be doing that. So I've gotten pushback for guests being on the show. But once we get into production mode, like I think that nothing was like a hard conversation to have. It really was like we talking, a conversation back and forth with us behind the camera and then them on the camera.
Yeah. I think I've had a similar experience where people are all nervous about coming on the show, and they like, what do I say? I'm like, we're just having a conversation. But then afterwards, it's almost like a release. Like they feel like they were seen, they feel like they were heard. It's like therapy. And I was listening to, so Will Smith took over the Red Table Talk the other night with Kevin Hart. And he was saying how that's one of the things that we don't really learn is how to communicate. A lot of times we're hearing, but we're not really listening. We're like, yeah, but here's my point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but here's why that's not true. And so it's one of those things where it's like we need, and that's why I'm glad about the Red Table Talk. I'm glad about Iyanla Fix My Life. I'm glad about Full Circle Television and our podcast, because I think that it helps to facilitate an environment that's conducive to having those conversations and to having those healing moments where you can come without judgment, say what you gotta say, you know what I mean, learn, through that conversation, grow through that conversation.
All of that. You gotta love it. I love all of these platforms too. And I love that, as Black people, we are kind of changing the narrative in that. Like, we can share our stories, and we can be vulnerable, we can be transparent, and we can be strong, we can laugh, we can kick it, we can play, but we have stories to tell, and we're using our platforms to tell those stories. So I definitely respect all the different platforms, because it's necessary. And somebody is going to get something from each one of those different platforms, which is really great. So before we actually started in your check-in, you said you were feeling overwhelmed. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, you got all this stuff going on, what does self-care look like for you?
Lately, it has been riding my bicycle. So I will get out at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. I don't care what time it is. If I am like overwhelmed, stressed out, like I would get out on my 2 wheels and I will ride my bike around the neighborhood. If it's during the day, then I will go by the water. Like I'll go downtown to the water and just sit by the water. Sometimes I'll take my notebook, but what I'm finding is when I take my notebook, I'm still working. I'm still like brain dumping and coming up with ideas when I just need to be still. I feel like in those moments, I need to clear my mind and be still. So a lot of sitting by the water or riding my bike, getting active in some way. And then I heard somewhere that when you are stressed out or overwhelmed, to do things that remind you of your childhood. Like if you do things that remind you of your childhood, like it makes you like happy. Like it makes you, like it brings a certain light over you. And I used to ride my bike around the neighborhood all the time as a kid. So I'm like, okay, I'm out here on my bike. Wind is just hitting my face and I got my ear pads in, listening to some music. Like it's a good time.
Yeah. It's like there's not a care in the world.
That has to be, because I haven't rode a bike in a long time. So that is probably it, because that definitely was my jam too. Growing up, riding bikes was everything. So you live in Milwaukee, or do you live in Madison?
In Madison. So I've been in Madison for 4 years now.
Okay.
Marcus lived here prior to, like, well before me, about like 5 years before me, and then I moved up here about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And what high school did he go to? I'm just
Riverside as well.
He's a tiger too. Hilarious. I love it. We gotta ask everybody from Milwaukee to come on the show.
For our personal records, just gotta know.
Right.
Gotta know. Listen, I love it.
Did you find what you were looking for when you were on your marital journey, right? Trying to discover yourself, find yourself, understand, am I ready to be a wife? Did you find what you were looking for?
Oh yeah, I definitely found out, like, I was a person that was coming from a household that argued a whole lot, right? So then in prior relationships before me and Marcus, that's what I was used to. That's what I would do. So when I got into a relationship with Marcus, and he wouldn't argue, I was like, well, what the hell? Do you care? You don't care? Like, you ain't arguing back, like you ain't snapping back or whatever. And when he like told me, like, we don't have to argue to like come to a conclusion, like you could do that by yourself somewhere and then come back to me when you calm down, I really had to reflect, like, dang, why do I even do this? Like, why am I even doing this? But it's because what I saw all while I was growing up, and then I took that into other relationships, and I did that whole time. So I'm like, this is normal. We're supposed to fight. We're supposed to argue. We're supposed to butt heads. We're supposed to break up. We're supposed to cuss each other out. Like, this is what I'm thinking a relationship was supposed to be. So once I started that like soul searching journey, I found out, like, hey, that is not normal, and you're only doing that because of what you saw growing up.
Yeah, it's a cycle, right? It's a pattern, it's a cycle, and you're like, hey, we're gonna break that today.
Yes. And we definitely got our whole life going to Sarah Jakes Roberts
Woman
Evolve conference. Like, she talked a lot about that. Like, you got to do that work. That little girl, you got to get her, and you got to have a conversation with that little girl. Yes.
And that's what I want to shout out to my stepdad about, because I think that he really taught me to be a student of myself, to really study who I am, what I like, what I don't like, things like that, and to question why I do certain things. Mm-hmm. And then to decide, is that acceptable or not? And if not, what you gonna do about it?
Exactly.
And those were a lot of the questions that I was asking myself, like, do you really like this, or are you doing this because this is something that you are used to doing? Like, even like in friendships where it was like, I like to do what my friends would call white people shit. And I jumped out of an airplane before. Like, I want to go scuba diving. Like, I would like to, I kayak and want to go camping and do all of these things that are not like Black girl things. And I wasn't doing them as much as I would like to because I had nobody to do them with. So I
Girl,
just
call your girl.
I was about
I'm
to say,
with it.
you got some new
Call
besties because she is with it.
We just told, if you listen to the last episode, I don't know if we said it on air or not with Willis, but we
Or was we
like,
talking about it after? We
it
might have
could
been
have been
talking about
after,
it
but
after.
we told Chill Will, who was on our last episode, we'll jump off the plane with you.
We going.
And my friends know I'm with all of those shenanigans.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, one of y'all was like, "Oh, you gonna have to push me."
Listen,
Yeah,
getting
look.
pushed, but we
Now,
going.
I might be a punk about it, but I'm
we
gonna do it.
Right. Listen, and I've totally been kayaking before and all of that stuff. So this is whole thing.
It's dope stuff. And when you hinder yourself because nobody else is going, like, are you really living fully? Like, no, you're not. So
yeah. And are you honoring yourself? Are you diminishing who you are? To make other people comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or because you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
In their presence,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing we're not gonna do is dim our lights for anybody. Like, you just gotta shine bright, and people either gonna step in your light or they're gonna step away because they can't handle that. And that's okay. That's what we always say on the show.
And that's okay. Yeah, that's our go-to.
Listen, ain't nothing
whatever
wrong
it is,
with it.
child. That's okay.
But I also wanted to ask you about the game nights. And I have to say, I went to the last one, and I just want to tell you, I had the time of my life. Like, I got my entire life at this game night. It felt like just going to your cousin's house on the weekend and just hanging out. Like, it didn't feel like a typical like party. Like, everybody was so cool and just vibing. Like, the vendors there were great. Like, just an awesome time all around. And my favorite part was the culture tags part. Like,
that's not
a good time. So where did you all come up with the idea to have like an adult game night?
We knew that we needed to get people in the room. They need to see our faces and our personality. I'm not too big on social media. And I feel like when you are trying to connect with people, they need to hear your voice. They need to hear your voice. They need to see how you eat, like what you ate for breakfast. And, you got to give them like little pieces of yourself. And I don't do that much on social media because it's just awkward to me. But in person, like, girl, come on, let's play spades. Let's do, play culture tags. Let's dance. Let's do whatever. So I'm like, okay, if we can get folks in the room, they will really get to know us, our personality types, and then we will forge new relationships. Now, our show is couples, friends, and parents, right? So we did a couples trip back in October, which was amazing in the Dale. So I'm like, okay, we got the couples squared away. They get to know us. We had 5 couples under the same roof with us for the weekend. Had an amazing time. From that, so many people were like, what about the singles? What about the singles? And I was like, well, what I'm not going to do, throw a single sleepover. I'm not doing that.
No.
So let's get together for what will people like. I was like, okay, it's between karaoke and a game night. I'm like, karaoke, I feel like we could find that in Milwaukee. You can find a karaoke spot or whatever. What don't we have? We don't have like a large game night type of thing where you could hear our music and you could eat some good food and shop with other Black owned vendors. So that's how the idea came about. It was between literally game night or karaoke, and we chose to do game night.
Oh wow, yes, it was definitely a great time. Shout out to the Bayou as well. The food was really good. Just a good bliggity Black time. Like, it felt so Black and so good. Like, I thoroughly enjoy myself. So I'm looking forward to more of that. And I love what you just said, like something for singles to do. So we talk about being single a lot on our show.
Talks a lot about being
I do. I'm like a professional single, I feel like. And that is a great way to like meet people. And it's so funny because I think I've been on this journey of like just going out and being intentional with my time and my surroundings and not really being focused on like, oh, he didn't ask my number or whatever. Like, not really being in my head about it. So at the game night, I really did. Like, I wasn't thinking about who was there. Like, I wasn't looking at, oh, is he fine or not? Like, I was really having a good time, like just kicking it, which was really great. So that was awesome.
I love that. When we were thinking about the vibes that we wanted to have, I'm like, it has to feel like a Black barbecue. It has to feel like it has to feel like a family reunion. It has to feel like an HBCU homecoming. It has to feel like the classics. Like it has to feel
Oh,
like
come on and give it to us then. I'm like, what?
And it felt like that. And I've been to all of those things.
I was
It
gonna
felt like
say,
that.
like I'm getting geeked right
Yes,
now.
it felt like that. No lie. Like
it had a lot to do with the music. Martin
yes.
Too Cool, he kept the music like really good. A lot of
I'm
nostalgia.
sorry, did you say
there.
who was that?
Martin Too Cool.
Oh, from Rufus King, yes, of course. Petty moment. It's neither here nor there, just throwing it out there.
Oh,
But
the
okay.
Rufus King alumni.
So it had to feel like that. Like it
Yeah.
had to feel like that for us. And it has to be like Instagrammable. Like I know that is a big thing when it comes to events. Like when I go to places, like the atmosphere has to be there. Like I've gone to places where with all the same people, I feel like all the same people, but the vibe wasn't there. Like I think it had a lot to do with the music. Everybody was hugging each other. Everybody was dancing with each other. People were buying each other drinks. Like it was a good time, and you didn't have to know these people like at all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I totally agree.
It's so amazing what you said about the vibe because it was my sorority sister's birthday, and so we went out to MKE Daiquiri, and Chanel, I sent you videos like it's a vibe, it's a vibe. Then after that, we went to a different place, and the same DJ was there, but it was a completely different vibe. Both vibes were fine and great, right? But they were just different, and that just goes to show like the energy that people bring and how you have to be intentional about the atmosphere and what you're looking to create in that space because it will manifest itself. And if you're not being intentional about it, you may get something that you weren't necessarily looking for. So I'm glad to hear that what you were looking to do, Chanel was able to pick up on it because she sure was texting me.
I did.
Sending all
like,
kind of stuff. And I was occupied doing something else at the time, but I was like,
I don't really know.
Yeah, I know, right? Love my bestie. Right. But listen, one thing about me, like I don't have a problem with being outside by myself. Like that's one thing that I don't mind doing. So I value like events where it does feel comfortable because if I am by myself, like I know I'm at least see one person that I know. Cool. But then I'm meeting also new people and it just feels good. So that is awesome. So the next one, you're going to be there sometime.
You gotta come.
Absolutely. The thing that I was doing before, I am no longer doing. What I was gonna say when going back to our earlier conversation, I was just looking because shouts out to Darlene, who's also on our podcast early on, setting the bar. She posted a video where she was asking someone, "Have you ever denounced yourself to appease other people?" And I was like, "Oh,
that's
right."
Good.
And so, when you were talking about like, "Oh, I like to do quote unquote white girl stuff," and people aren't comfortable with that. How did you feel kind of stepping out here to do Full Circle Television? Because even with us doing this podcast this way, we were like, oh, it's kind of different from, the other podcasts and the way that they're doing things. So how was that experience for you?
I was terrified. I have done other business ventures before, but nothing like this. So I am a behind the scenes type of person. So when we initially came out, I was posting it like I was posting it for a friend. Like I didn't want anybody. I told the guests that came, don't tell nobody that this is us doing this. Like when, I'm gonna send y'all the clips, y'all just post the clips. I'm gonna repost the clips from what y'all post. Like it was like very secretive. And it wasn't until I sat down with one of the guests on the shows, Michael and Indian. And he was like, you afraid what people gonna say? You afraid of what people gonna say. And I like when people can be so real with me because I would have never came to that conclusion. I'm thinking like, I'm just being incognito. Like I'm just gonna be real low key with it. I don't want to brag about it. And that's what I was thinking. And he was like, no, you just afraid of what people gonna say. And you don't want to put your name on it. So after we had that conversation, and then Marcus and I went to go take professional pictures. We started to put our name on it more. We started to do Instagram lives. And that was like during the pandemic time where everybody was stuck in the house anyways. So like I started to interview people on Instagram live and all of this, like really putting our face out there. Started to have the couples event and then the first game night. Now we on to the second one and all of that, like really started to put our face out there. But at first I was definitely terrified. Like, what are people gonna think? Are they gonna think that I think I'm this producer? Like, what was I was, what is the word called? Imposter syndrome. Like, that's what I had, a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, dang, are they gonna think I'm trying to be Oprah or somebody? Like, and I didn't want those problems. Like, I didn't want that doubt, but I definitely had it.
That sounds so familiar.
It does.
I think we did. Well, I know especially me. Like I was doing our Instagram and I would never post pictures of us. It would just be like quotes. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and then eventually I was like, oh, we went and took professional photos and, you know, tried to do more branding. And it was like, all right, you know, we're doing this. And then because of the pandemic, we started doing more Zoom. So then it was like, okay, we could put clips of us, you know, because I'm like, they can just listen to the audio.
Right.
They don't need to see my face.
No video.
No video. They don't need to know what I'm doing because I'm minding my business. Mind your business, right? You don't need to know what I'm doing.
They gotta see us, and I learned that they really have to see us, like, and connect with us. Like, I listen to podcasts and I Google, like, who is this person? like all the time.
Yes. And with you having that feeling, now that you all are more in the forefront, what's been the feedback that you all have been getting about Full Circle Television?
The feedback has been amazing, and I am big on reviews and stuff like that, because I can say that we great and what we doing is the bomb, but if other people are not seeing it, then other folks won't buy into that. So a lot of times people DM me and be like, hey, this episode really helped me. Oh, this really speaks to me. I had a girl say, one of my friends on the show, Ashley, she's like, I am Ashley. I was like, dude, people are seeing themselves in these people. Like, what we are doing is great. Like, this is good work. Like, I had somebody say, like, y'all made therapy cool. Like, y'all made going to therapy cool. Like, sitting down on the couch having these open conversations about all of these intimate things. Like, that's making it super cool for people to go to therapy themselves. So the feedback, since we have put our name on it and said, hey, this is Marcus and Kayla doing this, people come up to us, stop us, DM us, tell us at the game nights, any social event that we have. Like, we really appreciate the work that y'all doing.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And yes,
and confirmation.
I get my thumbs up too. Absolutely confirmation. For sure.
That your work is not in vain.
At all. So what role does your husband play in Full Circle Television?
He does all the technical stuff. You see why I still got this back? This is why I was like, oh, he's still at work. I need him to come take this galaxy background off.
Look, if my techie self, I was trying to help you. I was like, you gotta do this.
I was like, I'm gonna accidentally shut the whole Zoom down. So he does the cute intro we got, all of the stuff, all the clips, like he does all of that. He does the filming. He does all of that. All I do is come up with the questions and ask.
All I do.
That's a huge.
Look, you're like, it's basically his show. Right. I'm just here. I don't know.
There's all the tech stuff, and I just show up looking cute.
I just show up and be like, like that's what I do.
So what work do you do, or how do you sharpen your skill set to make sure that you do show up in the best light?
I listen to podcasts every single day. I listen to more podcasts than I do watch TV. I do a lot of like Instagram searching. Like, I have gotten to the point where I may not follow people that like, we cool, you know, whatever. I may not follow them because like they're not adding to what I am doing. So then I start following like more content creators, and I follow more creative people. And even if they're not in the same field as media, I feel like I can use what you are doing with your fashion brand and bring that over here. Like, okay, that's a hot song right now. Let me make a reel using that song. You know what I mean? Like, so I do a lot of Instagram searching, and listening to podcasts, like that is, and then reading books. So I read a book, Stories That Stick, and that really taught me how people connect to stories. Any big brand, you go back, you listen to their origin story, like you're gonna fall in love with them. Like I fell in love with the McBride sisters. Like,
oh yeah, they have a great story.
Great story, and it really like connected. I had sisters that I didn't grow up in the house with. I'm like, dang, I couldn't imagine meeting my sister that live in New Zealand, and now we have this wine brand together. So stories really stick. So also reading those self-help books and like business books.
No, that's awesome. I love it. And that just goes to show, right? may have a gift, but you still gotta sharpen it, right?
Oh,
Still gotta,
all the time.
Yeah, I do love that. And I think what you all do is the people that you've had on Relationship Goals the series, it has been really great stories. So I was listening to the one about not wanting to date somebody with children, which is right up my alley. Because I have been there. And I have a kid, so I see it both ways. So the perspectives is always really interesting. And also I watched the one about friends. Your husband was on that one.
Yep.
Right. That was your husband. Okay. Yep. He was on there with his trio of friends. And it made me think about like our friendship story. And I was like, okay, like this is so cute. Like I love just hearing people talk and hearing different people's perspectives, especially when they're from Milwaukee. Like we all live in this city, but we all had so many like different experiences, which is so cool to hear about.
Yeah, that's true. Some of us had Riverside experience.
No, but back to the one about dating people with kids, like I have an 11-year-old, but I had always said like I don't want to date anybody with kids, and people was like, how can you feel that way when you have a kid? Do you want somebody to not be with you because you have a kid? And I was like, that's their preference. That has nothing to do with me.
I probably don't want them if they don't want me.
Exactly. Like what are you saying?
Nothing to do with me. Like, oh yeah, she got kids. Okay, bye-bye, because that wasn't gonna work anyways, because my kid ain't going nowhere. So next person. But I did not want to deal with somebody that had kids. I love kids. I didn't want to deal with like I didn't want to deal with that.
Girl,
So
first of all,
to hear other people that have that same like outlook on it is like refreshing. Like, oh, I'm not being selfish. Like
absolutely.
I'm boundary. Like that won't work for me.
And it was good to hear the men say it too. Like the men was like, I really wasn't on that. Like I really didn't want to date a woman that had children, which is fair because like you just said, it's a preference. And I'm like that too. Like I don't want a man that has, I will say little children. If he has adult children, that's fine because we can live our best life. But like small children, I guess my prior experiences has led me to be like, nah, I can't do little kids because
you can't have a 6-month-old because
nah, that's too fresh. This is too new. I don't know. You and your baby mama, y'all still got eyes for each other. I don't know what's happening, so I'm out. So yeah, I value the conversations that the couples had, and I love to hear, and we love talking to guys and just hearing their perspective. So it was dope to hear their perspective, especially the friendship one too, because we had an episode where we were like, how do men make friends?
How?
Like, what does it look like? So to hear your husband and his friends talk about like how they met, and just their love for one another, I was like, this is really good. So yes.
That much.
Yeah, and what I value about the conversations is I think that it helps me get clear on what I really want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there was a time where I would be like, well, my preference is if he doesn't have kids, but if he does, like maybe that's okay, you know, da 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 da. But then it's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what's that about? Because sometimes I think like, well, my stepdad accepted my mom and I'm her kid, you know,
right.
Great job, stepdad, right? But that don't mean that that's
right.
what I need to do. Or sometimes it's like, oh, well, you know, at this age, most men probably have kids, and it's like, but do you know? But if that's really not what you want, then how are you going to show up for that child, right? So I think that sometimes it's about just getting brutally honest about whatever your truth is and accepting that, and then you know moving forward from there. So
I agree.
I totally agree too. But it's definitely valuable.
You start to feel like you're settling, and then that's not gonna be good for that child because we're gonna break up anyways. Like, and then the child is going to be like, "Where did she go?" Like, no. Now inflicting trauma on his kid.
You know what? And that's what they say about settling is that anything that settles always goes to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, so it's only a matter of time. So I think that that's why it is good to really learn yourself, to be a student of yourself, to get very clear on who you are, so you know what you need, you know what you want, and that you don't accept what's unacceptable. I think a lot of times we do settle.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only in relationships, but in a lot of things like careers,
jobs, salary,
everything. We settle for what's comfortable for the most part and what our safety blankets are. But it's time. I mean, I'm glad we're having this discussion because it makes me think like, okay, what am I settling in, and what do I need to
and
get together?
We had this conversation with Willis about what's comfortable, like what are we tolerating? and just being clear on that. Like, are we saying that stuff is okay and it's really not okay? Like, you know what?
Right.
Upon further review, that shit ain't good.
And I appreciated his like perspective on. I think it was settling versus like being comfortable, or being comfortable versus what was the other one? It was something.
Tolerating.
I think he said that settling was like tolerating.
Yeah.
And then comfortable was what?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I can't remember, but it was good.
But it was tight. Willis was very profound. Yeah.
It was a good distinction.
It was a really great distinction. And that's true because, life will do that to you. But you have to be so aware of yourself, I think, to come out of that. And I think we talked a lot about that too. Like, again, doing the self-work, like knowing what you want, and those true core things that you want for yourself, I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love it. So I would like to know, so you all have Full Circle TV going, and you have the YouTube channel is popping, like so many great videos. So I do want our listeners to go check them out. I'm going to be binging them all night too, because I'm like hooked. I just love the conversation. And you talked about being busy. So what are some things that you have planned for next that you want to share?
This is tea time.
Right.
I'm just
listen, we might want an exclusive. I don't know. Like, what is next for Full Circle Television?
And I'm gonna give y'all 2 exclusives too.
Okay.
I got my work board over here, and it's like all the different things that I need to do. One of the next things that we are doing, we have produced a journal, Relationship Goals, the journal. So all of the questions from the couples to the friends to the parents, and then we added self questions. So we have produced a journal that will be out for pre-order on July 1st. It is Relationship Goals, the journal. I don't know if y'all can see that.
Oh, the gallery, but we can kind of see it. There it goes.
So it's pretty thick, and it goes through starting with yourself, asking you questions like, how did you see love shown in your house growing up? What do you really want? The friends portion, like listing out the names of your friends and the value that they provide to your life. The romantic section is something like, what is one of the questions from the romantic session? What is something that you did in a past relationship that you will never do in another relationship? And then like a question from the parent section is describe a time that you really felt like your parents showed up for you and supported you. So it's taking all the questions from the show. We literally extracted all the questions from the show and put them into a journal. And this is for folks that have watched the show and are not ready yet to have those conversations outwardly, so they can have those conversations with themselves, and then when they are ready, they can bring those conversations up with other people. This is for couples. Like, we had a few couples already purchased the book from a vending event that we did, and they wanted to do the work together, like side by side, going through the book, and each of them like a little game night with themselves, like using the journal. And then it is also for people that feel like they may not be able to afford therapy, because I know that is a thing. Maybe they don't have the insurance or, what have you, but they can start doing that self-work at home and then reflect in that way. So that is one of the big things that we have coming up this summer.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's what's up.
Yes. I'm a big fan of journals.
Oh, and I need y'all address too, because I got y'all on my PR list. I got y'all names on their PR list, but I'm like, I need to get their address after the show today.
We got
absolutely. We are big fans of journals.
I want to do Relationship Goals, the podcast. So
okay.
Yep, taking all of the audio, nothing new. Basically taking all the audio from the shows, extracting that and putting that into podcast form, because we have had, like, it was a hairdresser. And when you're watching it on your phone, you can't do anything else on your phone. If you watch YouTube and stuff on your phone, you can't do
unless you have T-Mobile, then you can do whatever you want.
You can put it up in the corner and stuff and move around.
Oh yeah, I be doing 10 things on my phone at one time while watching something on YouTube. Yeah, that's actually why I can't leave T-Mobile. Because when I go to anybody else, I always ask them, "Can I multimedia on my phone?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Oh no, well then me and T-Mobile's together forever."
Oh no.
So we can all going over to T-Mobile.
Everybody,
Listen,
look, let me get a
apparently-
code real quick for
On the real, T-Mobile, hook us up with that code. But Sprint and T-Mobile, this merger, this not helping me,
Yeah, but
Sprint.
that
Like,
is
come on.
no lie. That's why I've never left. Because that's how my mind works.
Well,
So
I
I
have
can't just.
I got to figure out if I could do that then. I have Sprint and I know they together, but I don't know.
No, I don't think we get the perks of that because my phone
Sprint
do
don't
not
do
do that. Like if I go to something else, my YouTube is shutting off.
No.
Like it's out.
Mm-mm.
So as a hairdresser, she was like, I can't do this. Like I want to listen to it while I'm doing hair, and then maybe I need to take a phone call and do other. Like it doesn't work for me to watch the show. And she asked this when we first came out, when we only had the couple segment, and I was like, oh, that sounds like too much work. But after being on Everyday Media's podcast and doing a few different podcasts,
Shout out to Everyday Media.
Shout out to the white limo.
Shout out to them. I asked, I was like, hey, is this something that I could do? Like, and how much is it? And he was like, oh, that ain't no problem. It only costs this much. I was like, okay, sign us up. Sign us up and we're gonna come in and batch that content and get it all together. And that is going to be the next thing. So we have Relationship Goes the series, that's the show. We have Relationship Goes the journal, and now Relationship Goes the podcast.
I love it.
It's
full circle.
It is full circle, and it all is together. I love that. Yeah. So you hitting everybody, getting the auditory, the visual, the
I love it.
Everything, the oratory, you're gonna get all of this.
All the senses.
Yes. All of this full circleness. That's what's up. Congratulations to you all on that. That is so exciting. Just keep us abreast of when those things drop so we can support that for sure. That's what's up. So now I want to get into just a little bit. So you talked about what's next. So what are some plans that you and your husband, like, are there any other ventures that you all are planning to do aside from Full Circle?
So I like one of our like bonding moments from the time that we started dating, when I would travel up to Madison to like come hang out with him for the weekend. Like one of our bonding things was like cooking. We would be in the kitchen, you know, he cutting up the potatoes, I'm doing this or whatever, like in a small little apartment kitchen, like just keep bumping into each other. But it was a good time. And that's one of the ways that like that was our intimacy, is like cooking together. And I used to always joke like M&K's, that's our restaurant, like it's gonna be M&K's. And I got this whole section in my phone of all these food ideas that we come up with, like. And I was like, oh, this gonna be on our truck. We're gonna get a food truck. This gonna be on our food truck. Like every time we come up with something, I'm like, yep, we are adding this to the food truck list. So like far out there, maybe not, because I'm speaking into existence now. It may be tomorrow's shoot, but I want to do a restaurant lounge type of thing, because I think that we can provide the atmosphere that people really want and need, and they don't have to travel to Atlanta or Houston. Love those places. And it feels like home and it feels like a good time, but I don't want to have people to have to like always travel outside of Wisconsin or outside of Milwaukee to get that experience. So being able to provide them with like a brunch experience like that, or a fine dining experience, but at a lower cost. I think that would be our next venture, something that we are really interested in.
Oh, I love that idea. And I'm a big fan of food.
Oh, Chanel.
Like, I am a foodie. Restaurants, places to eat, trying new foods is like everything to me. So that sounds so amazing. Like I would love to even watch that, like as a vlog too. Like that would be cool to be like.
And also, now that I'm thinking about it, that was another thing that we wanted to do. Not to give too many details, but like have a vlog around food. I wanted to get like as many people that could fit on the RV, young Black millennials, and take us across the country, and we stop at all these places to eat different foods. And like we having conversations on the bus, and it's just a good time, and somebody is filming that whole experience, like, oh, this bathroom is too small, and you know, the little conflicts that may happen on the bus, like, oh, it's too hot in here. Like I want to get all of that, but then also get us going into these different restaurants, eating this different food and stuff that Black people wouldn't usually eat, and we gotta like try it anyways, type of thing.
Listen, I'm itching. I'm like, I love this. Like, come on, Travel Channel and Food Network, because we don't see many Black people on there. But that's okay, because Full Circle Television that's gonna be the next series that, you know, traveling and eating, because we like to eat too. So
We like to travel, we like to eat. Like we gonna combine it
together concurrently. I like to do both of these things at the same damn time.
Just to eat. New Orleans.
Yes. I love that.
As soon as we pick a place to travel, Chanel is always like, "Oh, because they got this restaurant, we gotta go here, we gotta do there." And I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know. But then when we get there, I'm like, "Oh, this is nice."
I love a swanky little place. Like,
listen, yes, same. And I'm itching to try like a bunch of places here in Milwaukee. Like the Egg and Flour place. Like every day I'm like, get down there, go to Egg and Flour. Like you gotta go there. So it's some nice spots in Milwaukee too. You just gotta seek them out. And I love the lounge vibe. I don't think that's something that we have here. And a loungy like brunch type of place. Yeah. I mean, there are places, but
like a really good, you feel comfortable, you feel safe, you can wear your
yeah. Like don't get me wrong, there are some spots, but I know what you mean. Like there's nothing like brunch in Atlanta. Like it's such
what's the place that we went to in Dallas?
Oh, the True Kitchen.
Was that True Kitchen?
Yeah. Okay. We went there. That was a vibe.
We need a vibe like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was absolutely a vibe. The music was a little loud, but
some people say, "Oh, hey, music is supposed to be loud." So I don't know.
Since I got y'all, how do y'all feel about like going to a spot that has like a jazz playing? Like, is that too old for?
No, I would love it.
No, that would be a vibe for me. I definitely listen to jazz. That's in my rotation of music. So I think there is a market, and I think millennials are very eclectic in that we kind of listen to everything. So I think that would be so tight. Like the spot on MLK, by my job, it's like a jazz place there.
I went to a bike show in Memphis. Mm-hmm. It was like bikes, blues, and something. I had time of my life. Okay. Mm-hmm. Time of my life.
Okay. I'm like, well, people my age like this, and they like, where the Boosie at? I'm like,
but I feel like we can do both.
We can do both, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Except for new music. Like I can do everything, but like the new music. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I would agree. Like some of these new artists, I'd be like, oh no, I don't know.
Because I think that too, we have to understand that a lot of the music that we love, it comes from like the roots, the origins are all there. You know, like look at your favorite songs and you'll see that they're all samples.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. That is very true. And a lot of this new music is like very dark and depressing. And I don't want to go there with you in my songs. Like, why are we so sad? I don't get it. So yes, no, that would totally be a vibe. So yes, I love your dreams. You're dreaming big. You're executing. We proud of you. That's what's up. We're so excited for Full Circle TV and everything that's about to happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so everybody all of that. Confetti. So everybody that's listening on the Good News Radio app, make sure you tune in to Full Circle TV. We have the link in our show notes, so make sure you hit up Full Circle Television so you can watch all of the Relationship Goals series and just see what's happening and what's coming up next.
Yes, last question. What is one of the things that you had to overcome throughout this process?
My own self-doubt. Like getting over self-doubt. Like as soon as that little hater in my head gets talking, like I gotta be like, shut up. Like one of the things that I said, like I'm acting on every idea that I have, I'm acting on it because if it fails, that's on me. If I win, then that's on me too. Like, so I'm just acting on everything and telling a little hater in my head to like, get out of here. Don't, girl. Not today.
You're not going to do it. Not today.
Not
on my watch.
Not on my watch. Yes, absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. That reminds me of Mel Robinson, how she says, like, you got to act on stuff within like 5 seconds.
Yep.
Because you'll talk yourself out of it. So you got to, like, when you had a good idea,
gotta go.
You got to do something. Like, you may not be able to execute everything, right? But like, send the email, do the one.
The precursor.
Just start it. Exactly. Do the precursor, right? Like there were some things that I was working on and I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm going to sign up, pay the money. Boom. There it is.
Done.
Now I'm in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same thing even when we go on trips.
You can't go back. You like, I already done paid.
Now I'm invested.
Right. I spent my money.
Now
I'm
I
going.
am invested. And that's the same thing for me with trips too. I'm like, all right, is we talking or is we booking?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it no more.
Just let me know the price. Where are we going? What's the price? Like, I don't want to go into too many details. Just let me know the price. Okay, let's go.
Is we talking? Or
Is we going? And we definitely been like, all right, I found a flight, go.
Send me a screenshot of that, please. All right. I'm booked. It'd be
Yeah.
like booked. Like our little group chat be like booked.
Go
booked.
time.
Like, all right, cool.
Listen,
So
I love that. If we don't do nothing else, we out here on these flights.
if we don't do nothing else, child, we gonna eat.
We're gonna eat.
And we gonna take a trip.
And we're taking a trip. And we don't do nothing else.
That is crazy.
I love it. I love it. All right.
Absolutely. Well, we have to do our to-go box.
Yes.
So what are we taking away from this episode? I'll start with you, bestie.
All right. This was another great episode. Love just talking and meeting with new people. After going to the game night, I was like, she has to come on the show. Like, I got to talk to this lady because I just thought that was such an amazing time. So I'm taking away just dreaming big. Like, it's okay for Black girls to dream big and execute and do the things that they want to do. I think for a long time we were told like, oh, you can't do that, or that's not possible, or this not your lane. But create a lane and somebody gonna vibe with it. And that's what I'm taking away, that this is a whole new network and it could be huge. It could be the next Revolt, NBC, or whatever, you know, whatever you want, but dreaming big, and it's okay to do that because people are supporting you.
Absolutely. What are you taking away, Kayla?
That there are other Black girls out there that like to do white girl shit.
Yes.
So get out of your comfort zone. If you see another girl kayaking, you ask her where she went and ask her, does she want to link up next Saturday to go? Because it's other people out there that want to do what you want to do. Even if your friends don't. Do what makes you happy.
Do what makes you happy.
At the end of the day.
And to go along with that, you know, earlier when you were talking about like wanting to do white girl stuff and like not doing it, it made me think of just being authentically you. Like really learning, taking the time to learn yourself, really understanding who you are, what you need, what do you like, and then doing that regardless. Like, you know, owning who you are and not trying to make everybody else comfortable with it. If they ain't comfortable with it, then that's cool. You know, it's all right. And I will say this, for every trip that we take, whatever excursions we do, people are always in my inbox like, now what was that now? How was that? So they ain't gonna write in the comments because they don't want people to know that they want to do white girl stuff either. But they're gonna be like, so what was that now? Okay, so send me the link.
What was y'all doing?
Exactly. Because at that Niagara Falls, everybody was like, okay, now how did you do this now?
Yeah.
Was this a paid tour, or did you how did you do this? Exactly. Now when you were actually in the water, I'm like,
yeah. You seen my poncho wet.
Exactly. You saw me soaked.
You seen it, okay?
Right.
Love it.
Thanks for tuning into Brunch with Besties podcast. Until next time, peace.